Hey guys, it's Ethan. This episode we are joined by our friend Joshua Ray Gooch. Not only is he an accomplished musician, he plays guitar, by the way. He is also a menswear enthusiast. By looking at his Instagram, you can see he's into like a variety of different styles. There's Ivy inspiration there. There is some Japanese Americana workwear. There's a little bit of Tom Brown, a little bit of thrifted stuff. He just kind of does it all, and I thought it'd be really cool to interview him and get his thoughts on, how he approaches fashion, how does music tie into it. And also, I thought he'd be a really great guest for the topic of this episode, which is what comes after menswear. Like what comes after, doing all the rules, following the, the conventional fit, navy blazer and khaki chinos, is there something that comes after that? We discuss all of that on this episode of Style and Direction. Hi guys, welcome to Style and Direction, a menswear podcast without the stuffiness. This is your host, Ethan Wong.
And I'm Spencer Odie. Hey, Ethan.
Spencer Odie?
Nope, not quite.
The Garfield character?
I'm going to send you to Abu Dhabi if you mispronounce my last name again. Earlier today, you went to the opera and, oh baby, I hear the blues are calling. Tossed salad and candied eggs. You saw.
I saw
Frasier.
I did. I saw Frasier the opera. It was weird because they had to had to recast Martin Crane. I can't.
No.
Okay, for those of you watching, Martin Crane, the guy who played Martin Crane, John Mahoney, actually passed away.
Just like a couple days ago.
Yeah, and that's all I could think of.
Oh God! The entire time.
The entire time. That's all I could think of.
He saw Candide.
Yeah, Candide. It was the latest Dapper Day collaboration. Last time they did one with the Natural History Museum, and now they're doing the opera. It was a matinee, so it really wasn't.
It wasn't real opera.
Yeah, it was fake opera. It was a little F. It was F opera.
Like Kelsey Grammer wasn't even in costume.
No, he was just wearing like sweatpants. No, he was naked eating spaghetti.
Eating spaghetti because he got skunked. Do you want to hear my other joke intro that I was going to do based on Candide the opera?
Go for it.
Where it's the best of all the worlds.
Nope.
Because Kelsey Grammer was also in Cheers.
That's Chairs?
Chairs?
I pronounce it Chairs.
Okay, but anyway, Candide.
Yeah. So it was really cool. There wasn't a lot of people dressed up because
it's an opera. And
you got like a lot of the older people who like to who dress up like normally, but like for Dapper Day people, there was like a group of like 20 people. Mm-hmm. Apparently, they sold out right when they announced it. When it was happening. So I was one of the few people there. They asked me not to go as an influencer, but as a photographer. And it was interesting because I don't do that. I'm not my photograph? I don't photograph well. I'm a vampire. Can't even
okay.
I can't even look at mirrors. The 2003 film Mirrors?
Yeah, I love that movie. That's the only movie I've ever seen.
I've never seen it.
Neither have I. I don't know what it's about.
Oh, man.
Wait, is that the movie where there's like a mirror world?
I don't know because I've never seen it.
Okay.
But it was really cool. And next one is going to be the LACMA. Here's a plug. First plug of the day.
Lactating.
No. God. Oh, my God. Our guest is just cracking up over there. We might as well call him Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty. Is that a porn name? Do you think it's a porn name?
I mean, it should be.
And I'll introduce you in a second. But
so shut up. God damn it.
God. Okay. But what was I saying? Humpty Dumpty?
You were talking about LACMA.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So the next Dapper Day event is going to be at LACMA again, but it's a David Hockney exhibit, which I actually saw when I was in New York.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll be reliving it.
Walking here. New York.
Nope, that's not. Okay. Well, anyway, today we are continuing our new
series of lectures.
Series of unfortunate events. We've got Dan Harmon and Lenemy Snicket.
Lenemy Snicket.
Yeah.
We're continuing our interview series because, again, we think we've run out of things that we can talk about.
If the first 5 minutes of this wasn't any indication of what this could be like. But no, so we want to interview people that we know, friends, business owners, because we know a lot of cool people. Last time we had, 2 times ago we had Cody Wellama, the Wellama Hat Company guy, and then we had our friend Andy, who is just a regular guy, college student who loves menswear. And today we are joined by. Why don't you give us a little? What would you want us to call you?
Okay, I'm doing my own introduction. All right.
I'll introduce you in a second.
But just give us a name.
Joshua Ray Gooch is what I go by. I
does
go
the
by
Ray-
my full name.
Oh.
Yeah, it's my great grandfather's name.
Okay, because I was
And,
going to make a joke.
Here's
I
something.
was like, what does the Ray stand for?
Raymond.
You're nobody.
Deborah.
That's not. I was
But not to me.
not to me. I was.
Okay.
We love Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, Joshua is a. I met him. When
You
did
met
I meet? I met him. When did I meet? When did I meet you?
Was
I
it
mean,
a
not
Grace thing?
that long ago. We were friends via Instagram.
Yeah, we were
for a
IG
while.
mutuals for a while.
Yeah, and then after chatting on there for several months just about random
It was like-
stuff.
It was like, yeah, it was just like, that's cool. Heart, like you just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it or whatever.
Yeah, our vocabulary is extremely limited.
Yeah.
We just kind of
Oh fuck
Hit a
yeah,
button and
that's a dope suit.
yeah, that shit's raw,
There
bro.
we go. I love raw.
I told you stuff was fleek,
Right.
which is a thing that I think that at some point people said, but I'm not really that sure.
Yeah, that came and went fast, didn't it?
So did I. And seriously now.
I come fast.
God, this is not the type of podcast.
I mean, it's shown itself
We're
to
earning
be
that explicit tag.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think in the first few episodes all of the episodes have the explicit tag, but only a handful actually have cussing in it, which is
I mean, the fact that you are using the word cussing, it almost should take away the explicit tag because it
we did a
seems like
swear.
We secular language.
I know.
yeah,
But we
cussing.
Yeah, cussing. God, I love cussing. Take my fucking word for it.
Oh,
No, but
Jesus.
no, yeah. So we were Instagram mutuals. I don't know how the first time we met each other or encountered each other on Instagram was it because
I think
you're
it was-
friends with Cody, right?
I think it was probably because I'm friends with Cody and almost all the photos that he posts are your photos. So
Yeah.
I was kind of like, who's this dude? And then I checked out this dude and it was you.
I was the dude that he checked out.
Yeah. And then we just were really just, like we said, just writing
Right.
back really basic fractured sentences.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we finally met up and had boba, which
Right.
is fitting.
The funny thing, even before that, was I met his brother before I even met Josh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
like
yeah.
his brother Garrett. I went to a bloke event that Spencer was not there for either,
Nope.
because someone's got work.
Oh, I got mouths to feed. No.
His
my mouth.
There you go. But I remember seeing this guy. He was dressed really well, and he was chatting with this woman, and I was like, oh man, I gotta tell him I gotta take his picture. Well, when he's done flirting. Hope I'm not like outing him right now, but
I don't think so.
okay,
No.
cool.
It was, you said it was with a woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I meant like outing, like in case he's talking to someone right now, and by some miracle that those ladies that he talks to listen to this podcast religiously. Because
Yes.
we're that popular. No, but like I went up to him and he knew me like right before I even said anything. He's like, "Hey, you're Ethan," and I'm like, "Yeah, yes, I am." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm Joshua's brother." I'm like, "Oh shit, what's
Yes.
up, bro?" Joshua's bro, to be more specific.
Yeah.
Did you say it just like that? Like, did
I said it verbatim.
verbatim?
Verbatim.
I don't think that's how that's said.
I don't
But
He's
know.
only read it. He has
But yeah. But yeah, I'm sure he probably knew you in a similar way. Like he probably knew you through Cody's Instagram,
Right,
and then I probably
right.
had mentioned like I maybe had sent him a post of yours or something, but I'm sure he had seen you around.
Look at this hot piece of ass.
Yeah, that's what I text my brother about other men.
But that's
This sounds
I
dead on.
There we go.
Yeah.
But one day I was stranded at home because my car. I had to get my car brakes fixed, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get it back to you at the end of the day," I'm like, "Oh, when is that?" Like between 5 and 8 o'clock. And I'm like, "Shit!" And then randomly, I think Josh responded to my story. He's like, "Hey, if you got nothing to do, I can come pick you up and get boba. And I'm like, let's go. And then we ended up going to Paper Moon. We both bought something. I bought a suit, which is on Instagram right now. And you
Check
bought
it out.
I bought some pantalones.
Pantalones.
Yeah, those brown
Hells
pantalones.
yeah. And and I think we've seen each other a few times since then.
Yeah, quite a few. I mean, Inspiration, we saw each other quite
That
a
was a
lot.
big one.
Yeah.
So when's the wedding?
Yeah, we're just gearing up for that.
There we go.
Kind of prepping.
The Mucinex mucus man.
Isn't the new Mucinex person is TJ Miller now? So he doesn't sound like that.
But the old one did, and that's the character that I'm doing. I'm auditioning for the part of the Mucinex man.
Are they?
Well, I think he's in a little bit of hot water, so you actually might get that job.
Oh, well, perfect.
I wonder if it's gonna be like the thing with the KFs with the Colonel Sanders is like played by a different SNL
Do you
cast
think they're-
member.
Yeah, like Norm Macdonald did it, and
Do you think they're
and that's the
gonna,
Daryl
only one that I know.
Daryl Hammond, Jason Sudeikis. I think that's it.
Vincent Kartheiser did it for one ad where he was like a sexy young colonel, which is weird. So
I love sexy young colonels. Popcorn. I'm talking about popcorn.
okay.
This is why people tune in to hear commentary about large food chain commercials.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the podcast is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you're a man of great style. That's how fashion is what brought us together, and
Tear us apart.
Yes.
but some people might not know you because like you said, like we talked before. Music. Josh is a musician. You play the G string.
I play. I have a lot of guitars. They
He's
only
been
have
known
one
to play
string.
some G strings, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah. So I work. I mean, that's what my job is. I mean, I'm like a hired gun and session musician.
I thought you played guitar, not guns.
Oh Jesus. So yeah, I mean that's my passion. That's how I make my living. I've been touring since I was like 17 years old, and
wow.
I've been up in LA now for like almost, I think, like 7.5 years, something like that.
And you're how old now? What's 19?
I just turned 20. I just turned 27.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah. So actually the first Gooch Collective event where we did the concert with the clothing
That's
and the
right.
integration of all that stuff was like a birthday thing as well.
And the next Gooch Collective will be Spencer's
The
birthday.
day
Yeah.
after Spencer's birthday, but yeah.
Oh, I got that wrong then.
That's
He
all
could have
that-
given you a pass. He could have been nice
I
about
could
it.
have, but I won't.
But yeah, so yeah, I think because like you said, musicians kind of small, so not many people might not know you, but they probably have seen you play because you play primarily with.
The last like 7 years I played with Shania Twain. That's been like my main touring gig.
Who is that?
Uh,
Is that a film composer?
yes.
Oh
yeah.
shit! I should listen on this. That's kind of a small pull. If people listen who like follow me really closely, they know that I love film scores.
He sure does. His favorite is Michael Giacchino. And
Shut the
Hans
fuck
Zimmer.
up! Oh my god!
He doesn't like.
I
them.
definitely don't like those guys. But this is not a podcast about that. This is a podcast about menswear.
Without the stuffiness, in fact.
We don't got congestion here, right?
Back to that Mucinex character.
Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
why.
In fact.
That's why I want it.
So you were always into music, right? You've been playing for a long time. You told us that. You told me that you were in a competition, right? That's kind of one of the first things you did.
Well, it was definitely one of the first things I did professionally. I actually started music late. Like I started playing like right before 8th grade. So I'd never been in band. I'd never played any instruments. I literally had like a skateboard stolen, and I had nothing to do. And my dad had showed me.
Were you the kid in Back to the Future that got his skateboard stolen?
Yes.
Based on a true story.
Yes. That was me.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm still in a ton of court cases trying to sue for the rights of that movie.
Yeah,
it's not working out well. I've spent all of my life savings. It's a mess.
It's weird that they like had a story about a kid who got his skateboard stolen, and then they were like, "Wait, let's put in time travel," and then went in this whole other direction.
You know what's weird is I've told that story so many times, and nobody has ever made a Back to the Future reference ever. Which is I love that you did it. I can't believe nobody's done it.
I believe that life should be like the 30 Rock principle, where jokes should happen every 3 seconds, and I think that everything can be traced into a joke.
I like that philosophy. That's
Yeah.
a good show. So It's a good place to start.
Yeah, The Good Place, now on NBC.
Yeah, Ethan's watching it now.
I finished it. It's so good.
Oh, shit.
It's so good.
It's like, okay, so was it the last episode to come out or the 2 episodes ago? I was obsessed with the show, and now you are. So.
Oh, yeah, that's me. I'm so obsessed. What were we talking about?
You got your bike stolen.
Yeah, bike
Oh,
stolen.
so that's how the music thing started. But before that, like when I started playing guitar in the first place, I was really into punk rock before that, which is like a very common middle school thing. But I was really obsessed with the aesthetic, and I like went all out and like did the whole like, denim vest with the patches with this, safety pins,
yeah.
and for like the exploited and the casualties and the misfits, all this stuff. So the kind of obsession with aesthetic started then, but it went away when the guitar came in. Because that was my whole, like, I was playing all day, like 9 hours a day. It was crazy.
You were shredding.
I was shredding, and especially early on, like, I was just obsessed with the shred. And
with an S.
but yeah, like, the clothing thing kind of went out. Like, I see photos of myself in high school, and I look like a trash monster.
Hell
like,
yeah.
I'm wearing trash pants. And none of my stuff fits right, but it was just like all of my attention had focused. But that aesthetic interest was still it was still there. It just wasn't being utilized. It was only being utilized in music, kind of that brain space.
Interesting.
So when I got back into clothing later on, it was like it had kind of been waiting there. You know what I mean? Like, because I had that interest from early on.
So
Right.
when you first got back into clothing, did you go back to kind of the punk thing, or was it like a whole new direction for you?
No, that was a real like middle school thing. I mean, I can listen to some of that punk rock stuff now and really appreciate it, and I do still occasionally listen to it. But I think I really got back into clothing, like really got into it like 5 or 6 years ago. Like when I was touring and stuff like that, I was trying to get into it, but I was also kind of like thinking that I had to do the like rock guy thing with like all black and leather, and like I just hated it. I didn't like it. And some guys look great in that, and that's totally cool. And a lot of guys do it really well, but it never felt like me. But it was kind of, I almost, when you're just younger and trying to figure stuff out. So I was kind of wearing stuff that I was never really happy with. And so when I really started to get into clothing, it was kind of a thing with my brother, because that was what he had been obsessed with. Like I was obsessed with music for a long time.
Okay.
So there was actually a summer when he came and stayed with me for several months, and I got him a job in LA, and he was staying in actually this living room on this couch we're on right now. And we spent a lot of that summer just like scouring thrift shops and Wasteland and all these types of places. And it was kind of when I really dove in, because I like we were doing it in tandem. So after that, after he left, I was still going and hitting all those same places, and a lot of it was Instagram. Like a lot of the early aesthetic was just looking at Instagram and finding people that I liked. So it wasn't old movies, and it wasn't even necessarily musicians. It was just kind of people that I would follow and like really analyze what they were doing.
Who were some of those people in the very beginning?
Denny Balmaceda was definitely one that I was following a lot early on.
Like Denny 66, something like that?
Yeah,
that guy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And when I first started getting into him, it was just the fact that every day it was different, and it wasn't the like hashtag menswear guys, which you know what I mean. Like I just even early on I wasn't into that, even when I didn't really know what I was doing. I really liked what Denny was doing, because there was an integration of like vintage stuff, which was the kind of classic side of it. I wouldn't say classic tailoring necessarily, but there were, pieces from the 60s and like these old kind of boots and stuff.
He does like a super 70s thing now, though, right?
He does the super 70s thing, which, I'm all for people like just going for their thing. The 70s I'm really against the 70s personally. Like there's really not a whole lot.
Attention everyone, Josh hates the 70s.
I mean,
those like VH1 shows that's like I love the 70s, you would be on the opposite of that.
Well, the thing is, I love 70s music. There's a lot of stuff, but the clothing I just can't do. And I mean, it works on Denny, and I think he has a really good aesthetic eye, and I actually have a lot of appreciation, because early on, like he was somebody I really followed a lot. But I just can't do the 70s thing, man. I can't. There's almost
You
nothing
have
about
long
it.
hair. I feel like you would kill it.
But that's the thing is it would look so cliche. I would look like I was in like a southern rock band.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I would look like I'm in like Lynyrd Skynyrd. But then I have like my face is way too like baby face to pull that. Like I don't have that like
you're a pretty hot baby.
Bearded.
Okay.
I go for the hot baby look. That's really
sexy baby.
Sexy baby.
Yeah.
I do that voice when I talk to women quite a lot. They seem to be extremely repelled by it.
Do you open up like conversations with like hello?
Yeah, I do like what Andy did on the Office.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's
woe I went.
Yes. Yeah, it is a disaster. But I keep doing it. I mean, one day some chick might be way into it, and I'll be.
She could be.
stoked.
What she
Law
said
of
at
large
work.
numbers. It's gonna happen eventually.
Yes. Yeah, LA. There's a lot of women here. So
I haven't seen any. But
You've never seen a woman.
not in a long time. So would you say then, like, are there any musicians that you look up to, like, right now that have really great style?
I mean, I would say Leon Bridges is definitely one of the current generation. There's also a lot of musicians. I would say Paul Weller is somebody that has fantastic
I'm gonna nod
style.
and be like, yeah, oh yeah.
If you saw a photo, he gets reposted by a lot of the like, especially British fashion people. He's a
Okay.
British musician and has a really cool like kind of mod thing, but it ventures into classic menswear as well. And I mean, there's people that I love their style, but I would never dress like it. Like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix are two people that had just a great eye for that stuff. But like, I'm not going to wear like feather boas and like all that kind of crazy.
You're telling me you're not gonna do that?
I mean, look, if we do this podcast again in a year, I might be just decked out in like pink feather boas and like 70s bell bottoms,
Hell yeah.
but don't hold your breath. So I feel like a lot of musicians, I look up to them more for just their aesthetic taste on themselves, not necessarily like copying what they do. Probably more older musicians like Hank Williams, like we were looking at like that record up there on my wall where he's wearing like this dope silver belly open road Stetson with like a pink tie and a navy blazer, and he looks awesome. Miles Davis is actually probably my number one musician style
Numero
idol.
uno.
Yeah. Later on, he went total like Liberace style and super crazy when he was older. But I mean, if you see those shots of him in the 50s, it is the coolest, like Ivy style with the Oxfords and like the check plaid, like sport coats, and just like he did the kind of neckerchief thing like really early on and had like cool knit ties and so he was in. Bill Evans is another one. So a lot of the 50s, late 50s jazz stuff, it's just super clean and I love that look.
He's given so many like, I can't. What do you call this expression?
Okay, symbol.
Yeah, he's doing that a lot.
Yes.
So when you are touring, because Shania Twain's like a country artist, right?
Yeah.
Do they? This might like let's get some inside baseball. Do they like kind of give you any direction on how to dress? Have you ever gone in?
We have stage outfits for her shows because they're really it's really specific
Is there like
in
a
her
branding
show.
thing? Kind of like I'll have to look.
I think the consistency factor is just it's really common among shows just because they try to cater the lighting to what shades of clothing that you're wearing.
Okay, that makes sense.
And a lot of what we've done has been very because she's a country artist, but it's like country pop rock. It's like a mix and Mutt Lange, her ex-husband that produced all that stuff, was involved in AC/DC and Def Leppard and all these kind of rock bands. So it has that like kind of rock vibe. So it's a lot of black, kind of leather jackets and boots and jeans and stuff like that. So it's more on the kind of rock side actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, and once we get settled into the look, that's like the look for the tour. At least that's the way it's been since I've been with her.
Oh, those are the clothes. Like, do you own those clothes, or is
No, they're like in like a wardrobe case.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's one picture of you while you were performing where you were wearing like a pea coat and like a. But that's yours though, right?
Yeah,
like,
that was recently. So on the tours, there's like set stuff. The last like year when we've been doing a lot of promo stuff for her new record, it's just been like use your own stuff but wear black. So that was mine. That was actually we were playing the halftime show of the Grey Cup, which is like the Canadian Super Bowl for the CFL. And there was a blizzard happening. It was like 15 or 20 degrees. So like that was my like flat cap or 8-panel flat cap and my like old navy black pea coat that I was wearing. So those clothes were mine.
When you say Old Navy, is it from the
No,
store Old
sorry.
Navy
You know
or
what?
old, comma,
I'm
Navy?
really glad that you actually said that. It's an old, comma, Navy peacoat. Yeah.
Got
We
it.
just have to make sure that our followers don't
Yeah,
be
we
like,
are not sponsored by Old Navy.
and we will never be.
No, it would. I would lose all credibility if I'm like, yeah, I was playing on stage in my Old Navy peacoat that I got for Christmas from my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was
Black Friday sale.
Yeah, Black Friday sale. It was $10.
Mm-hmm.
So when like they give you a wardrobe, but do you kind of get to like pick out? It's like, oh, out of the stuff on the wardrobe, this most matches my aesthetic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would go in and like on the last big tour that we did in 2015, that was like an extended tour. Like we got to choose from like Fry boots. I like went on the Fry website and like picked the right boots,
that's
and I got
cool.
to pick. Yeah, and there was a lot of jackets that were like John Varvatos or All Saints, and I just got to go in and kind of. I usually would go for
John
the more
Varvatos,
classic.
that's like the vampire store.
That's what we call it whenever we walk by it. It's
They've got, it looks like a vampire store. It's
exclusively for vampires.
but
got,
for
like-
rock musicians, that is like Brooks Brothers.
Okay.
Like it is the home base. Like John Varvatos and All Saints for like rock musicians is. I'm serious. It's that much of a thing.
I could see it. Yeah.
And so I would just go, when I would go in, I'd try to find the most classically styled thing that they make, because honestly, some of the jackets from them, some of them are way too kind of like rock stuff for me, but some of them are, they're based on old like Shot Perfecto jackets or something that, or kind of anything like that. So I would pick the more classically, probably more utilitarian, simplistic version of whatever it was.
Okay. So, how would you currently describe your style? Like, if you had to try to like put,
Let's talk about like what he's wearing right now, right?
Because earlier someone asked for a full body shot of your outfit. So
Well,
let's
it'll be on
just-
Instagram.
yeah, this is on Instagram. So if you're listening to this, you missed out. But we can just describe it here.
Yeah, he's wearing a linen. Why don't you take us through
That
this?
looked like that was like, oh, we're talking about the cap started at the very top.
Yes.
This is actually from a brand. I just bought this last week at Inspiration.
We can talk
the
about
company's
that.
called Blue Made.
I
And
blew myself.
They're based out of Brooklyn, New York. And this is like a Belgian linen cap. And it's fully unstructured, and it's just awesome. I can wear the brim down. I can wear it flipped up.
It's like one of them is like for like serious mode. The other one's like, what?
Which one is which?
It's up to you to find out.
So that's the cap. The blazer is
it's like a triple striped blazer. It's got
Regatta, like English
Yeah.
regatta, yeah.
3-roll-2 from
Black fleece.
yes.
I saw the label.
Yes. Oh, I was gonna say that's a lot of the kind of tailoring and stuff that I have is Tom Brown stuff, whether it's actual like Tom Brown label or it's Black Fleece, Brooks Brothers Black Fleece. So this is a Brooks Brothers Black Fleece jacket that I picked up at Wasteland with the
Oh,
tags
wow.
on it
Jesus.
for like $80, and it's like a $900 jacket.
Christ.
So Wasteland is definitely a place that I live like 2 blocks from it, so I'm there all the time.
How are we not there? Oh, right now.
I hope no one like figures out where you live.
It's
based
also
on
it's
that
also
information.
9. Well, if they want to go knock down every door within 2 blocks of Wasteland. Yeah, and then I've got a vintage blue wool knit tie on, just a white Oxford shirt.
From Uniqlo?
Yeah,
Oh,
wow.
cool.
yeah.
And he's got that cool sprezzatura. He's got the collar buttons undone.
Yeah, and I also have the top button of the shirt undone, just because I just get super hot when I
Believe us, he gets super hot.
But I kind of like just having it open up there. I like the look of it, and it also just feels
You're like,
more
you
casual.
know, it's like 2004, just got off work,
Or
cover of
Yes.
John Travolta at the premiere of Bolt.
That's my
don't-
favorite look.
I don't know that look.
He's
he's
wearing like a really shitty, like baggy sharkskin suit. Like the first 2 buttons of his shirt are undone. His tie's like down to the middle. Shirt's completely untucked.
Well, that's the look I'm going for. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you made that
We'll
connection.
put that picture of John Travolta on the Style and Direction
That
Instagram.
should be the like preview for this episode. That picture.
We should call this episode John Travolta's Bolt outfit.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea. We should name the episodes like random bad outfits.
Okay.
What about that Michael Phelps suit?
Oh man,
Please
the one,
use that.
The one where he's wearing like a 3-piece suit, but the pants are so low rise that there's like vest, shirt, then pants.
Yes.
Oh, God.
It's
The rise of his pants are like barely above his genitals.
Yikes.
And then
Look this
the,
up.
Yeah, look it
the
up.
vest is like 3 inches away from the top of his pants. There's like puddling of pants.
That's a good one.
Yeah, at his shoes, it's just like it looks crazy. And the thing is, he's such an athletic guy, and he's an Olympic athlete.
Right.
Like he would look great in the right suit, but it looks like he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be on TV. I'm gonna go to the mall and like buy this suit." And like the guy who was, you find it?
Yeah, we just found it.
Yeah, but also just like
He's got
look
that.
at his face.
He's got that Clark Kent thing going on.
Yeah, that is bad.
It's really bad. It's
It's
really
awful.
bad. I mean,
Jesus.
he's an American hero, but that is
We love
it's just
you.
awful.
But no, I think it's okay. So Spencer's scrolling through. It's like every outfit is just like that.
It looks like maybe the suit was like the pants were tailored to be higher rise, and he just didn't do it.
He just kind of pulled him down.
Yeah, he was like, no.
Take it from us, guys. High-rise trousers are the best way to live.
They really are, yeah. And I'm wearing
Continue.
for pants. On the high rise note, this is the kind of it's hard to find super high rise denim.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But these are the LVC 1933s, I
Oh,
believe.
Yeah, I have those.
Yeah, they're really great.
Yeah.
And I found these at
Thanks,
Wasteland
Tony.
also.
What the fuck?
In Hollywood.
We are going to Wasteland.
Yes. And and then I get all of my, not that anybody is asking about socks, but I get all my socks at Uniqlo. Honestly, they have.
So do we. We
Sam's
just
wearing
went.
them right now.
When I posted the picture of that on Instagram, a lot of people were like, "Same." Like guys from like all the tailoring places, a suit supply guy that we met, same thing.
They're
Are you
so.
wearing your socks right now?
Oh yeah, they're Uniqlo
All three
socks.
of us are wearing Uniqlo
Yeah.
socks.
We're the three
Honestly,
U's.
every like guy that I know that's into menswear wears Uniqlo because
Yeah.
they have every shade.
Oh, yeah.
They're actually nice socks. They have different textures,
Right.
and so all of my socks are those. So
Sponsored
they're just like
post from
Yeah.
Uniqlo, please.
yeah, they are definitely not sponsoring yet, but they should
No,
be.
they should.
Sometimes I get shit at work because where I work the dude factory. When I talk shit on work, I don't want to say the name.
You've said the name before.
But
you work
know,
at the Dude Factory.
the dude factory.
The Dude Factory.
Men's Warehouse. We're we're supposed to sell the fun socks like all the time. Like that's our new big accessory that we're supposed to throw on with everything.
This just in from
I
2011.
am so bad at selling fun socks because I hate them, and they're like, "So fun socks are in now," and I'm like, "I guess."
no.
It's like, "Are you wearing any?" I'm like,
Oh yeah, I think Spencer told me a story of like he was.
"Yeah." One time, my boss told me to start wearing more fun socks so I could
Yeah,
sell
and he
them
used
better.
to do them. Yeah, he used to wear like stripes and whatever.
Yeah, I still wear striped socks, but usually in like very like muted
classic.
colors.
Yeah.
But my boss was like, "Let's see what socks you're wearing right now." And I like lifted my pant leg, and they were plain white socks, and he was like, "Oh."
He was like offended.
Yeah, he was like, "Okay."
White socks are the best.
Yeah, right?
I wear them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I'm like not wearing a suit, it's usually white socks. So.
It's just a great. I mean, it's that Ivy look that you can integrate it into so many different types of outfits. Like I try to bring white socks into a lot of stuff.
You're just spraying white everywhere.
Yes,
Stop.
that's. And then kicks wise, I've got on the PF Flyer.
Those
Brooklyn
are-
Circus Ramblers, which are my favorite sneakers, and I wear them all the time.
Yeah, like I'm not a huge fan of. Oh, he's just sticking his foot out now.
Flexibility.
Yeah, flexible. You heard it here, ladies. But yeah, I'm usually not a big fan of PF Flyers just because I'm not a big fan of the last, and sometimes the color is a little bit weird. But the ones that you have, I know Cody has the same ones as well.
He does, yeah.
And they look really, really great.
And they look great with like suits and stuff. Like I've worn them with a couple of my Tom Brown suits, and they just look great for dressing down stuff. I mean, that's a big part of what I do is like trying to dress things that wouldn't be associated together that can work. And
Yeah.
I just love the sneaker look, and I know it's been overdone, but if you use the right type of sneakers, it can be really fantastic. So in the PF Flyer stuff, like I have a huge collection of PF Flyers, but these are my favorite ones that I have. I want to find the toffee version. I've been looking on eBay and haven't found them in my size. The exact same shoe.
Sounds yummy.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so for those listening, our mic situation right now is Ethan is holding one right in between us, and occasionally he'll just like point the mic at me as if I have a joke. He's like kind of just preempting me for that.
I'm trying to get him to be funny.
And I didn't have anything.
But you had a great story about the placement of the microphone.
I did.
Yeah.
Yep. So there we go.
There we go. So what other what do you like to collect?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's in your closet right now?
A lot of stuff. I have.
I mean,
I have a lot of.
Same, right, Spencer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely got. So my brother and I both got this from our dad. He loves thrifting. Not necessarily clothing, but just the idea of finding kind of treasures and stuff like that. So I would say a majority of the stuff that is in my closet, almost all of it, except for like Uniqlo stuff and things like that, it's stuff that I bought secondhand.
Oh wow!
Whether it's at a vintage shop, a fair amount of it's from vintage shops like Paper Moon and like Relic Vintage.
Throwing that sponsor out there.
Yeah, Paper Moon is fantastic. I go there all the time.
It's on Hollywood Boulevard.
Sunset.
Sunset?
Yeah, it's on or off of Sunset. It's over near the Vista
Google
Theater.
it.
Yeah.
Google it, you'll find it. I'm
Yeah.
not Google.
And so almost all of it's from either vintage shops or thrift shops, you know, kind of Goodwill, Salvation Army stuff. Less so now. I haven't been doing that as much. Most of it's like places like Wasteland that have a somewhat curated collection of stuff.
But what do you look for exactly? Like, do you grab...
What's your strategy when you walk into a vintage shop? Do you go in there saying, I'm looking for this specific item, or do you go in there and just let the universe bring to you whatever it may?
Usually I go in... It's actually different when I go into a vintage shop than it is if I go into like Wasteland. Mm-hmm. Because with Wasteland, I usually am finding clothes that are somewhat new and I know the labels. Okay. So like I know if I find something that's like Junior Watanabe or Tom Brown or kind of, you know, labels like that, I immediately kind of really look the item over because you kind of just want to get in and look through everything as quickly as you can, and sometimes just kind of looking for basic fabric and label kind of as you're going, you kind of double back and check more stuff out. When I go to a vintage shop, I kind of have things that I am looking for in general. Like I'm like, I need a pair of blue high-waisted pleated trousers, or I need a pair of like khaki 40s army pants.
Yeah.
And then within that, like, obviously, as you guys know, like when you go in, you might find something that was not on your radar at all, and it's the dopest thing in the world.
That happens to me too many times. I end up spending too much money.
So I definitely, I kind of go in with mindsets, but things just change. I mean, sometimes you walk into a Goodwill and you're like, what is this? Or, so it really depends on the store, but I'm open for anything whenever I walk in anywhere. When you're not buying it new, you have to be. Yeah. You get used to that, you know.
Yeah, down for whatever. Budweiser.
Yes.
I love that bud. But what do you like look for? Like, you know, you're obviously not just buying random 40s stuff. Like, is there like a specific? Because you're wearing a 3-roll to kind of like, you know, it's a modern, you know, Brooks Brothers Fleece, Tom Brown collaboration thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it's very like, you know, early 60s looking, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, what do you look for in that regard?
Well,
aesthetics.
You know, the one thing, and we were talking about this earlier tonight, the one thing about...
Without Spencer...
What?
Spencer wasn't here, right?
Oh, yes. Spencer wasn't here, so...
He got here, and then... Because we were at Boba earlier, so...
Ooh,
yeah, because
it's... I missed out on that, because I live in Orange County, so...
The OC.
Don't call it that.
You know, the reason I like the Tom Brown stuff is it actually fits my body type more. The problem with a lot of the actual 60s stuff is the jackets are too long, and they don't look good on me. I don't have that kind of like... I'm not short, but I don't have that like lanky kind of figure and just kind of like stomach area. Like it's just not elongated. Yeah. So those jackets end up looking super weird on me. So the Tom Brown stuff is obviously based on that kind of like late 50s, early 60s stuff, but it's cropped. Mm-hmm. And so that I really like. Like I like with my trousers, when I buy vintage trousers, usually what I do is I end up moderately tapering them below the knee or just above the knee gradually as it goes down. So I'll do like 1 1/4 inches, 3/4 of an inch, and then 1/2 inch at the bottom, and then I'll add bigger cuffs than they usually had. So a lot of the cuffs on those vintage trousers are like 1 3/4.
Yeah.
I'll usually end up getting like 2 to 2.5, which is obviously more in the kind of Tom Brown zone.
Yeah.
And I get them cropped a little bit higher. Not a whole lot. I've met a little bit more in the middle, but I like to have mine right above the ankle bone. So I kind of go in and like I know with trousers it's a really easy change to make those moves, and jackets are a lot harder. So with jackets, most of my jackets are Tom Brown jackets. For tailoring stuff, just because I know I can get it off eBay and I know it fits me.
Okay.
Like I bought a navy black fleece suit and it came in the mail and it just fit immediately. I didn't have to do anything to the jacket.
Dang.
Yeah, so I just kind of like know with that brand that it works for me. So
so similar cuts is what you look for with like other stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and I like to have it where I'm buttoning whatever button I'm buttoning is just right above my kind of waistband.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just I don't like a whole lot of shirt showing there, so
Yeah.
I kind of know these types of things when I go in, and I know what fit and aesthetic I want. Like with ties, I don't wear a lot of like really loud kind of swing vintage ties, which I have nothing against it. Some people rock them and kill it. But I think my ties are more minimalistic. I don't wear a lot of like silk pocket squares. Like I like to wear white linen.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And
I'm always in a white pocket square.
yeah, it's great. I mean, it works with everything. And depending
That's right.
on what I'm going for, like I'll either have it like I do now, where it's a little bit more
TV fold thing going on.
Yeah, but I'll actually this is
Layered a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of a layered one that's a little bit. It's like showing the edges of the pocket square. If I'm going for something even more kind of TV fold, I'll flip it upside down so it's really clean.
Yeah.
You know, obviously that kind of Mad Men, Don Draper look. So yeah, so I definitely know what I like, and I like to do twists on kind of classic items. I never wear just like I want to wear all 40s. Like some people kill that look. It just doesn't do anything for me. I have to have variation or try to attempt to do something that either hasn't been done before or something in that exact way hasn't quite been done before, or at the very least something that I haven't done before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to? Should we just transition to?
Yeah, we can. Well, so we're gonna. Should we take a quick break and then let's take a little quick break and then we're gonna get.
Dude.
Yeah, we'll be right back with some style and direction.
Woo.
All right, hi guys, welcome back to Style and Direction.
Menswear podcast without all the stuffiness. This is the first time we've taken a break, so we don't know the protocol.
Yeah, I don't even at the moment we're recording, I don't know what music we're going to use as a bumper for this. So I'm assuming it's going to be really funny.
Yeah. Oh, you better hope it is, because you just built it up. And speaking of really funny, here's a joke that I came up with.
What's
on the
funny?
car. Louis Goochman.
Oh my god.
Does anyone ever call you that?
Nobody's ever called. The fact that we now have this Back to the Future thing from Ethan and then that joke, you're just breaking new ground.
Yeah.
It's honestly fantastic. And may I suggest using Limp Bizkit as the
Oh yeah, that's
Do
a
It
great
All
idea.
for the Nookie would be a great intro into this section of the podcast.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you guys need some more new metal.
Like,
There we
well,
go.
just let's look up who played at Woodstock '99, and we'll just pick something from there.
Some good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The bird from
Family Guy.
from Peanuts?
Nope.
What's Woodstock?
Oh,
I'm just
you're kidding.
I'm just kidding.
okay.
I know it's a
Concert.
you said it, not me.
It's not that kind of it's not that kind of show.
Yeah. So again, this is the first time we're taking a break because we're going to be talking.
First time we've ever taken a
Yeah,
break.
in our lives.
Yeah.
When they say at work, take your 15, I'm like, I'm not taking a 15.
Yeah, I love being a wage slave.
I love being
Working away for the man.
Yeah, let's get political.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it, guys.
Late
Changing
stage
the world.
capitalism, am I right, guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But the focus of this episode is, what comes next after classic menswear.
Speaking of getting political, what is to be done?
What?
That's an essay that Lenin wrote.
All right, communist. So that's and I think that Josh was a great. She's not dead yet.
Yeah.
Yet. Maybe when the alien overlords come
just a
across this,
threat.
they think, oh, yeah, these people who made the podcast are all dead. But at the time of recording, he was not dead yet.
And this will be floating around in space as a fossil of humankind.
You know that like plate that Carl Sagan sent out to like show aliens what humans are?
Yes.
Yeah.
That they send out like this episode.
Yeah.
This is the one.
They're like the first plate didn't work. Let's send out an episode of a podcast that nobody listens to.
And then I can brag to all your other guests that it was my episode.
There you go. There you go. After everyone gets dead.
Are you going to text all our future guests?
Yep, future and past.
Okay.
Beat that. Just aggressive.
There's going to be a group
no
chat
reason.
set up for all our guests. Not us in it though. Just the guests.
Everyone except us. They can talk about spine.
If you guys aren't in it, we're just gonna talk shit about you two all the time.
It's gonna be called
Constantly.
talking shit about Ethan and Spencer.
The group chat.
There you go. No, but the reason that we wanted to do this topic is because Josh has a really unique style and unique take on classic menswear, and it'd be cool
style and direction.
to plug in that name. Hey, that's the name of the show.
There you go.
There it is. I wanted to say that. But we thought it'd be good to discuss that with you. So when you first started, like, were you into like classic stuff like at all? I mean, you said that they talked about the punk thing and then looking at like Miles Davis and everything, but did you ever wear like how it's quote supposed to be worn?
No.
No.
I mean, there were the items, but they were kind of through the filter of just modern photos and stuff most of the time through like I said, through Instagram and just kind of really keeping an eye out for stuff. But it was that look of like the lower rise-ish men's trousers that are like cropped with no cuffs and kind of just your standard stuff like that. So I wasn't looking back yet at the old Miles Davis stuff and the Bill Evans stuff and all that, and even obviously even further with Fred Astaire and Humphrey Bogart and all those dudes. So that wasn't really happening yet. I was just kind of fumbling through it. I mean, I would honestly say that some of the parts of my style were kind of there, but they just hadn't been clearly articulated yet. It's as with when learning anything fairly early on, you can sense what the person is going towards. They're just not there yet, and it just takes. I mean, I think people don't realize how much attention to detail over extended periods of time that it takes, and practice it takes to actually be able to put together new and interesting outfits on a daily basis and have a wardrobe that's not just pieces of clothing that are cool individually, but pieces that work together. Yeah. It takes a lot of time. So, I'll look back and be like, oh, I'd still wear that color scheme. Like, that's still the basic colors I use, but the pants were lower rise. Maybe I don't like the way that the brown on the belt goes with the brown shoes. They weren't the right shade. Stuff like that, where I'm like, I would just articulate these things differently now, but the kind of basic building blocks are there. And it's very similar to music. Like, as far as my philosophy is, I really like to learn how to learn rather than learn.
What a nerd.
But I mean, rather than like just accepting facts of a given subject and memorizing things, I like the process of learning things. And I think the way that I learned with clothing was it was very similar to what I did with music. I had been through the process, so I kind of understood how it was going to take. It was going to take time and a lot of work, but you just need to keep working at it and keep refining.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, earlier you said that you didn't want to do like a carbon copy of stuff, right? So how did you approach it with that mindset? Like, oh, I like this stuff, but I'm not going to do it the way they do it. I'm going to do my own like spin. Like, what's the driving force behind you wanting to be different and doing, cropped but like high-rise pants, a little bit different than Tom Brown, that kind of stuff.
I think once again, like, it goes back to that's the way I did it with music. Was like I want to do, like, I play a lot, but I sort of got known playing blues music, and it was like it was the same thing there, where I was like, I love this music, but when I would see people do like essentially an impersonation of B.B. King or T-Bone Walker or any of these amazing blues artists, I was like, it just makes me go, why don't I just actually go listen to that person?
Yeah.
Instead of listening to this person do an impersonation that they'll never be as good as the original. It's just not possible. So it's the same thing with clothing. Like I look back and see photos of, James Dean or Bob Dylan or whatever, and I just go, I don't want to do it. Or if you even go further back to like, Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant and stuff, I don't want to do exactly what they did because they did it so well. So I might wear something relatively similar, but my trousers will be a little bit more cropped. The cuff will be a little bit bigger. They'll be a little bit more tapered. The jacket will probably be a little shorter, and the shoes that I wear might be like a weird take on something where they're like some of the Mark McNary stuff that he's done, where it's like a classic long wing brogue, but with like a day-night sole, or even like a military combat sole on a dress shoe. So it's like that take of kind of taking really classic items and flipping them on their head, but then pairing it with other straight up classic items and kind of like mixing and matching throughout an outfit. Which is why I think I keep a lot of my color schemes fairly simplistic, because a lot of the work that I'm trying to do, I don't want it to be too strange. I want it to be, the work's usually done by proportions and variations on stuff like that rather than through color, where some people really experiment more with color. Yeah.
Dang, that's
yeah. So I mean,
that was really cool.
Because I mean, that's kind of okay. Ethan, you're gonna know way more about this than I will. His arm's super tight from holding that mic. But isn't that kind of like, the Japanese, like I think there's a better word for it, but like kind of anti-fit thing, where it's generally very, kind of like not classic colors, like just very subdued colors.
Yeah,
like
closer
that.
to.
If you look at like, I don't know if I took a lot of pictures of inspiration of random people, but Rando Calrissian. I'm proud of that one.
Solo.
Yeah. Solo coming out in May 28th, I think. I don't know. They're not sponsoring this, so I don't know. But no, like Spencer said, like these Japanese people have such a great concept of American style, and then like I said, flipping it on its head.
Mm-hmm.
They do like really wide leg chinos, which could be vintage from like the 50s, but then they'll like get them super cropped. Maybe they'll roll them. Maybe they'll be like super distressed, and then wear them with like white socks, or like wear them with like Birkenstocks or something like that. And I think that's super cool, and it goes with that theme of like, maybe they have the same idea of no one can do it as well as they did back then. So why don't we do our version of
exactly?
it?
Yeah, and I take a lot of inspiration. My brother and I both do. We talk about it. I'm sure if you guys have him on, he's going to talk about it as well.
We will.
And you've mentioned that book Ametora, which is a fantastic book,
which
and
Spencer hasn't read yet.
I want to.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so well researched, and it's so
like
clear.
The third time it's come up on the podcast.
It's really great.
Are you getting mad at me?
No, I'm just thinking like David.
We're pissed.
David Marks or David W. Marks?
I have the book right there,
What?
and it just says Marks on the side, so I don't know.
There we go. I love Marks. His work.
Carl.
Yeah.
But it's a great. I think it's not only that they don't think they can do it as well as them, but it's also they don't hold them to this kind of like holy standard either.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they have an immense respect for it, but it's not this thing of like, oh, if your pants are really cropped, then it's an absolute travesty.
Yeah.
They don't have that kind of. They don't hold it to that same kind of like standard there. So I think that that's a very similar mentality to what I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No. I missed that. I was actually.
We tried messing with Instagram.
Yeah, I was messing with Instagram. But that's super cool. Spencer? How do you feel about like with your personal style?
Well, because as we've talked about many times, I'm still super into vintage, and I wear at least one vintage piece almost every day. But I am also getting out of that. I have to, I'm trying to recreate outfits from this specific point in time, and now dressing in what do I feel comfortable in and what do I think, looks good. So I'm wearing like, modern stuff, like mixing and matching like modern and vintage stuff. Kind of just like creating my own vintage inspired thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to make this all about me, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying when you're when you're like, I'm never going to be able to recreate this exactly, so why try? Like, let's just go for something else. Let's do something new.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot there, and it's also, and I'm gonna make so many music analogies, but this is what I do, so it's hard for me not to. It's also, we have this view now that everything is available, through, like, with music, it's like on Spotify and YouTube, like everything that has ever been recorded is there, and people back in the day didn't have that kind of source to look through, so we can take all of these disparate things of like military looks mixed with tailoring, mixed with Ivy stuff, mixed with like Cuban stuff from the 30s, and we can make this amalgamation of all those things just because we have our smartphone, and we can in 10 minutes see a photo of an old American actor, and we can see an old Walker Evans photo from his trips to Cuba, which I have in a like coffee table book over there, and there's some amazing outfits that they were wearing in Cuba in the 30s. It's incredible. And you can integrate that all because it's running through your neurons in your brain all the time. It's like you're taking in this information from these disparate areas.
I have an album on my phone, just like inspiration, that's like 6,000 images. Something like that.
I asked him for stuff
constantly
because I
put it on Google Drive and he refuses to look at it
because he knows where everything is. So I think that's the difference. Maybe he just has more free time than I do.
But I bet those photos range from probably the early like 1900s all the way up to the last couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so cool. And there are other people like somebody like Nick Wooster. I definitely don't try to copy the kind of drop crotch stuff, and he goes way out there. But what I love about him is not that I love every outfit; it's that he's willing to try. He's willing to try anything, and I think that that's super important. And there are definitely little things from him that I've been like, oh, I'd like to do something similar to that. But I would say it's more just the fearlessness of like, I'm just gonna try this, and if it doesn't work, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Tomorrow is a new day, and you're gonna figure out a new outfit, and you're gonna go live in it. It's like what Andy said on the last episode. I actually really liked, and I said this to him in inspiration. I love the idea of like you are spending time, whether it's the night before or the day of, putting together your outfit, and then the second you walk out the door, none of that matters anymore. You just are living. Yeah. You're living as yourself that day, and the work is already happening. The work is going through all the time you spent learning this stuff, and then the specific time you spent on that outfit. And then the second you leave, you just live. You don't sit and stare at your clothing all day and talk about it, unless you're talking with other, menswear people. Nerds, But once it's on, just live. And I think that's really important.
Do you think that you need to have the concept, like the basic understandings of menswear to make it work? Because obviously, what goes together, blue and brown tend to go together.
Well, are you just basically saying it's like, learn the rules before you break them? Yeah,
but I'm wondering how important it is because, like you said, you didn't really do classic menswear when you first started. You did the punk thing and then you kind of fell into this. I'm wondering how important those basics were to you, or did you do it while it was happening?
I was learning it as it was happening.
So you're doing like cropped, but also like, oh, these pants fit,
right in,
but they're cropped.
Yes.
That's so interesting. Like, I feel like, if I, like, all the stuff that I do that's a little bit more out there, when I experiment, it's always, like, a version of what I did before. Like, I had, like, wide leg chinos. Like, oh, what if I just rolled them a little bit higher, But I get a separate piece just to do that because I don't, commit as much as you do where all of your pants are cropped or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's super interesting to me because I went through the whole like doing GQ first, then learning classic menswear, then doing vintage menswear, then combining the two, and then kind of, now I'm like kind of experimenting a lot more with casual stuff.
Sure. And I think a lot of it happens as you're doing it for me because I think that if you sit and like kind of just pontificate on these ideas and not
putting it into practice.
And not putting it into practice, it just doesn't work. So there's plenty of like pairs of pants that in the last couple years I ended up getting them cropped, and I wish now that I had put cuffs on them.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't. And now it's like, okay, well now I'm doing that with pants that I'm acquiring now because I realized, I do like some pants without cuffs, and I think it's cool to have both, but I've really been enjoying having bigger cuffs and just having cuffs in general. And like, so, sometimes you end up getting into something and you kind of commit to it, and then you're like, oh, that's not even exactly what I want now. So, you just have to go and learn in practice, and you're going to buy a bunch of stuff that you're probably either never going to wear, or you're going to wear it once or twice, and you're going to sell it, or or give it to a friend or whatever.
The hard part with us, I think, is because we're all into vintage, so it's way easier for us to be like, oh yeah, that's weird, I'm going to buy that, and then
never
wear it. As opposed to guys who spend a lot of money on something and then they end up keeping it. For us, it's like so cheap. It's like, why not? Like, why don't you buy it?
Or you get something and you're really excited, and then you go home and you realize it doesn't fit.
Yeah, that hasn't really happened to me much.
That happened to me when I first got into it.
Definitely.
Like I would try something on, and I'm like, oh shit, this is so good, and then I would overlook the stuff, and then I would go home and wear it, and then I'd be like, can't wear this anymore.
So do you have any so now that you've kind of gotten to this post-classic menswear, even though you weren't really into it to begin with, what are some major mistakes that you've done?
Oh, I mean, there's so many. Like, the rise of the pants is a huge thing. And especially, like, on just my body type, like, I look way better in high-rise trousers. And
I think everyone does.
Yeah,
I think most people do. But, like, I definitely notice a huge difference. I noticed a huge difference with myself, where I was like, man, I'm now still in the process of just getting rid of anything that's not high enough, because I wear it and I'm like, this doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
And some of them are really nice pieces from like really quality companies, where I'm like, I wish this were the same pair of pants but just higher rise. But that's obviously not something you can change, so I've just been selling it. And that's why I've been buying a lot of vintage trousers and then tapering them a little bit and cropping them a little
heresy.
bit. I know. See, that's the thing is I would rather, my mentality is I would rather have it be worn all the time. And I think the ultimate goal of clothing is that it should be worn.
Yeah.
And I get that I know you don't do stuff to, was it pre-50s? Is that your...
I typically don't taper anything pre-50s, yeah.
Yeah, see, I just did a couple weeks ago. And I wore those pants to Inspiration, those brown 40s trousers.
Right.
And I didn't do a whole lot. It's not like I was like, they're now like skin tight. Mm-hmm. But I just did a little bit because...
Right?
You could.
I could. And now
if
I will.
You wanted to.
Yes.
You can make those pants into a quilt.
Yes. I'm going to just tear them open and sleep in them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I just feel like if I'm doing minor changes and it retains the ultimate goal of the garment, then, and I end up wearing it, because I don't like my trousers to be as wide as they were. I like them moderately tapered.
Because that's also what people did back in the day, because people kept their stuff forever. And so say someone bought a suit in like 1948 and the pants were super wide, the jacket was very bold, and then it's 1960. And so they would go to their tailor, they would have everything kind of slimmed down, maybe have the shoulders reduced, stuff like that. So that is something that people did to continue wearing their clothes.
Some of the crazy ones that's fine. But we've seen the
judgment in that.
I just remember
palpable.
There were a few times when you would see like a 30s jacket where the lapels were slimmed down in like the 60s, and it's just
double-breasted suits that were turned into single-breasted suits.
Yeah, like that's just like somebody being a dumbass.
Well, but also the fact remains that they probably didn't have another suit, and they probably wanted to keep up with the times, and they would just change whatever one they had. Yeah. But now it's like, I wouldn't wear it, but I'm sure some cool guy out there would be like, "This is a cool jacket. I'd rock it." You know?
Yeah.
So that's your mistake, high rise pants.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I did for a long time. Early on, I didn't do the super crazy socks with like cheese on them.
I have socks somewhere with sushi on them.
Oh, fuck.
Oh,
they're sky blue, and then there's sushi on them. I gave them to my friend MJ because I don't wear them.
So bad.
After my boss directed me to get more fun socks, I bought a bunch that day, and I tried to get stuff. It's like, okay, these are fun socks that I would wear, and then I wore them like maybe once, and never since.
Yeah, I really don't like. I really don't like. Crazy socks. So, but I did that early on. Not the super crazy ones, but I had plenty of fairly bright colored socks, or like with a bunch of stripes or stuff like that. I would never wear that now. I just wear single color.
Right. But what about like failed experimentations that you tried to do? Anything that you've been like, oh yeah, I think I can pull this off, not something that you've matured over, but
I would have to. Well, I definitely think, once again, this kind of relates to the trouser thing, is tucking your shirt in with lower rise trousers looks like shit because the shirt's constantly coming out. It makes even thin people look like they have a gut. It looks awful. So I spent a long time trying to tuck in shirts, and I wasn't doing the kind of like, I guess, the military tuck where you tuck into the boxers, which is, I do that all the time now. I do that with essentially every time I tuck a shirt in.
Okay.
Because it just keeps my shit in there, and then that's what I want.
You poop in your boxers.
Yes.
It keeps it in there.
Yes, I go to Uniqlo a lot.
Excuse me, it happened again. You just loudly announced this.
So I'm thinking about moving near a Uniqlo so I can just stick my head out the window and let them know that it's happened again.
They're just gonna have to throw it out the window.
I remember there was a time I wasn't there for this, but the manager was closing at Banana Republic, and we were just kind of reflecting over weird experiences in retail. And she said that one time a guy like kind of walked in, just really kind of like stressed out, right? And he was like, "Where's the underwear?" And she's all like, "It's over there." And then he was like, "Okay, cool, thanks." And then he bought some, and then he went out for a little bit, whatever. He bought some, walked out. So that's fine. And then one of the other managers, it was a guy, and he went to the restroom, and he smelled like something was awful in there. And he looked in the restroom, and there was some dirty pair of underwear. And he told the other manager, and they're like, "Oh, I guess that guy must have pooped his pants." Had to buy underwear at that day, change it,
God.
and at least he paid for them, instead of like just taking a random one. I wish.
What did he eat?
That guy, like, to this day, probably still, like, when he's trying to fall asleep, just thinks about that time that he pooped his pants at a Banana Republic.
Or that's a regular thing for him.
Oh shit! Which is worse?
Yeah, I don't know.
It happening once and you have to live with it forever. Well, no, definitely like pooping your pants all the time. That's definitely worse.
But he might get into it at a certain point and be like, "This is my bag."
Yeah, like
this is my poop bag.
Diaper fetishes.
Diapies.
That's a dark web thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you have to get on the Tor network. Cost 50,000 bitcoins.
Another thing was just fit stuff with shirts where I'd be like, "Oh, the sleeve's just a little long. I'll just roll up the sleeves." And then you're just like, why? And it like now I either am very specific, like I either go get it, like I go get my sleeves taken up and I make sure it fits right at the shoulder. A lot of it's fit stuff where like people let things slip, but it's once again, it's the refinement of your aesthetic eye. And when early on, you just don't notice all the stuff that we notice now. It's like, it's hard to, this is a super, this is kind of tangential, but I think it's helpful. There's this guy named Steven Pinker who's like a professor at Harvard, and he has this thing that he talks about in this book called The Sense of Style, where he talks about the curse of knowledge. And he's talking about how difficult it is to imagine not knowing something once you know something. And it happens almost immediately. Once you know something, it's hard to put yourself in that position of not knowing it. And I think that happens all the time for musicians. I notice it, and with clothing too, where like we're seeing stuff when somebody tries something on that like they are not seeing.
Oh yeah.
And there are people with even keener eyes that are seeing stuff we're not. It's just like that continuum is pretty vast. So I think a lot of it is just you have to refine it, and there's not really a whole lot you can do other than listen to people that are more experienced tell you about their mistakes and try to keep those kind of floating around your head, so you try to minimize that amount of fuck-uppery as much as you can.
But that still sounds like a lot of mistakes. Like, do you ever like experiment, be like, I really want to try this, and then it just did not work for you? Or you just pull off everything that you like, and it's just super cool.
No, I probably put it on in my apartment, looked in the mirror, was like, I don't like this.
What's a good example of that one? Like in recent one. Like,
been.
Are you just trying to get like blackmail?
Yeah, I just want to blackmail.
Describe a bad
outfit. Trying to. I don't know. I mean, I would end up fixing it before I leave, but it's stuff to like going like, should I leave this shirt untucked when I put a jacket on, and then it ends up looking really weird and the proportions are off, and
like
then I'll
John
try the
Travolta
shirt like John Travolta in Bolt, was it?
Bolt, yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
So it's a Disney animated movie where he plays a dog action star from a TV show, but when the show gets on hiatus, he thinks he's still in the TV show, so he's like, "Oh no, I've got to go rescue the girl."
Apparently Ethan's favorite movie.
Yeah,
it sounds great.
Definitely seen this movie.
So it's stuff like that, but like I feel like even when I was making a bunch of mistakes, most of the time I wouldn't leave my place looking like a fool.
Yeah.
But I definitely tried like loud like bucket hats and stuff that I'll see photos now. I'm like that.
I still want some.
Like yeah, it's more stuff that I just realized wasn't me.
Yeah.
Than a mistake on an objective level. You know what I mean? It's more like, oh, I'll try this thing, and then like that's not me. It's like the thing I mentioned with like the swing ties. Like other people pull it off and they look great. It just doesn't work for me. It's
Right.
like or hats with small brims because I have long hair. I can't wear small brimmed hats.
Yeah.
I can't do it with caps. I can't do it with fedoras. I can't do it really anywhere. It makes my head look like
Like what?
like a pin. Like I don't no it's not even it just looks like crap. It doesn't look good.
Right.
So stuff like that, yeah.
What about you, Spencer? Is there any like weird experimentations that you've done, or like something that you've wanted to try that you haven't maybe like not executed well?
So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I haven't executed well. Look at my Instagram a year and a half ago. But I mean, most of this, I don't think I've ever went out and said I'm going to. Well, I guess my first foray into like vintage casual wear was not great. So that was an experiment. But like most of the stuff that I've come to regret is just. Yeah, like impulse purchases, stuff that I thought that I'd be able to wear really easily, then I haven't before I really knew how things should fit. And while I was, still kind of honing my aesthetic, going from just like straight vintage outfits into kind of more contemporary stuff, which has happened in the past like 2 years.
So that's cool. So when you mean by your aesthetic, like what does that mean for you now though?
Well, I mean, okay, so it's kind of tough because it's like it's kind of a mix of like 60s and 70s like Ivy, especially because like I have two different styles. There's like, at least when I'm getting quote unquote more dressed up, there's work Spencer, which is I'm wearing.
Nice to meet me.
Nice to meet me. I wear like a lot of either like Brooks Brothers stuff or like 70s does 30s and early to mid 30s stuff. That's doesn't have quite the exaggerated figure that late 30s, early 40s stuff has. Then there's Spencer when I'm Ace Reporter Spencer, and that's where I do a lot of 70s. Like 60s and 70s casual like stuff. I wear a lot of loose like light garments, a lot of autumn colors. And like Oxfords and chinos and like jeans and stuff like that. So it's like, I guess you could say my style.
My style.
What about your direction?
My direction is forward and fast. My style is kind of a mix between like 30s academic and 60s, 70s Ivy, I guess.
That makes sense.
Thanks.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, for me, when I first started dressing up, I like, we've talked about this countless times on the podcast, but like I dressed up all the time,
we all have.
Yeah, I don't know about Josh. Maybe not Josh.
Us.
Yeah. But for me, like I wanted to look super sharp all the time. When it was first there, it was like I want to look super 30s, and then after that was like, oh, I kind of want to do Lawrence Fellows, and then it became like I want to look super Armory, and then now that I've done I think everything I've wanted to do. Just like you, Spencer, I've got like different modes. Like if I'm gonna go to like a vintage event, I want to do kind of like, I don't even know what to call it. Like it's kind of like Armory does in the 30s, and then And then if like the opposite of that was like 30s Does the Armory, I guess, kind of like I think 30s Does the Armory I think is how I do vintage outfits. And then when I do like a regular outfit for work, it's kind of like the Armory does 30s. And then now it's like a whole bunch of like Drake stuff, which is kind of like 2018 does 1961. Yeah, does like 1962 or whatever. But if we're talking about like really experimental stuff like post classic menswear, I think what I've been getting into is kind of like a Japanese thing. You know, like a lot of wide leg pants, high rise with like a t-shirt tucked in. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Bryceland's, which isn't inherently Japanese, but you know, it's run by Kenji Chung and Ethan Newton, and their stories in Tokyo.
So it is.
So it's Japanese, but you know, they're not Japanese.
It's Japanese philosophy of like utilizing workwear stuff within tailoring, which can go wrong really quite easily, and they do it brilliantly.
It looks so like natural on them. Like I think at Pity, there's one great picture of Kenji wearing a beret, a cable knit turtleneck with what I'm assuming is a Dalcore jacket, but with like vintage like monkey pants, like in the frog skin like camo, with white socks and like cordovan loafers. And I think I gotta show you, Spencer.
That's a perfect example of like what I was talking about earlier, where it's like it's a fearless example of taking on the classic stuff, and like the, you know, the kind of cable knit with the blazer. He's wearing a blazer in that photo, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
like that is super classic right there in like a great way, but also timeless classic. The beret adds this kind of like French kind of like
new
hints,
wave,
new wave, but it's kind of like it's kind of punk rock at the same time. And then the like just the use of the white socks adds the Ivy look, the loafers as well, and then the kind of like military
just jumping right in there. Yeah,
it's great. Like it's such an interesting,
not like the other, but it works.
Yeah, and you're not going to see a photo from really. You're not going to see a vintage photo of anybody wearing that, but yet they work together.
Yeah, it's so crazy, and I think that's kind of where I want to go. And you know, talking to Kenji, I think, because, you know, these guys have been doing this for a long time. Ethan's been working in, you know, he did the Army before that. He did Ralph Lauren before that. And it's what's next for these guys. And this is what's next. And I really, really like that. And I think I'm kind of treading on the same journey, not exactly like they are. But I think, you know, me and the Bryson's guys share the same philosophy of like vintage with contemporary. I'm basically Bryson. I mean, come on, guys.
But there's becoming a fair amount of people in Los Angeles that are doing this. I mean, I think us three are very much on the same page. I know that my brother is definitely, he wears more experimental stuff than I do, I would say.
He was wearing, when I went to the Rose Bowl last weekend, he was wearing olive like military chinos with freaking flowers embroidered on them, and then with what I'm assuming is a 2120 plug for them.
Yeah,
you're welcome, Aram. But like, I think like a shoelace as a belt.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's so crazy. It kind of brings to mind, and I don't know if he thought of this, but you know, Fred Astaire used to wear ties as belts. You know, it's giving me that same kind of vibe as like, well, all I need to do is just hold my pants up. I'll just use whatever I want.
Yeah, and sometimes I have some rope belts from Trading Post by Dr. Collectors, which is one of a brand that I think is fantastic, and they do once again this kind of Japanese take on classic menswear or classic workwear and like sailor wear almost. But yeah, sometimes even like a rope belt is too thick, so like a leather shoelace is a great kind of
it's like alternative,
and you can wear them off to the side, you can wear them in the front. It's all those variations are a cool way of, and wearing that with tailoring,
right? Like
you know, I don't know if it worked, but there's a photo over there that I did at actually Wellham Hat Shop for Glad Hand, which is an amazing Japanese company, and I was wearing these high-waisted navy trousers from Double RL with like white or off-white kind of eggshell pinstripes with double inward pleats, and then
sounds dope.
They're really dope. They're one of my favorite pairs, but they're quite heavy, so in LA I don't get to wear them. But I wore that rope belt with those, and they're like dress trousers, and it it kind of dressed the whole outfit down, and it was like everything else I was trying was suspenders. It just didn't work, and then a belt I didn't have the right color belt. Like a brown was just too much. My navy wasn't the right color navy to go with the blue pants, and then like a natural rope belt ended up being the win. But I went through all of them. I tried like 5 things on before I left.
Yeah, I did the same thing this past weekend. Because again, I was thinking of that picture of Kenji, and I was gonna hang out with my friends. I went to the museum, and I didn't want to wear like a suit or tailoring because I do that all the time. But anything I came up with was kind of dressy. Like, I'm like, I really don't want to wear a tie to hang out with my friends. And one of the options was attempting to wear like a blazer with these really vintage, I'm not sure if they're German, but they're like these like cotton work pants that are kind of like this weird lavenderish blue. You can see like the weave of it, and they're not long enough to like cuff normally, but like they have that kind of like messy, like just once over rolled cuff. And I really was like, yeah, I kind of dig it, but I could not for the life of me make it work. Like I just felt like everything was weird, and if I wanted to make it work the way I felt I could, it was too dressy. Like like a knit tie Oxford with like a tweed jacket. I'm like, oh, that works, but that's still
not for this situation.
Not for the situation, exactly.
By the way, what's the name of the designer that says make it work?
Nike.
Nope.
No.
But I think that's a good example of like to tell people that even if you didn't make it work and you opted for a totally different outfit, that was time well spent.
Yeah, exactly.
That fucking up and going, that's not working. Why? Okay. That's not working. Why? Got it.
Yeah.
That is all knowledge you carry into the next day.
Exactly.
And even if you start from scratch 10 minutes later, you carry that knowledge.
Yeah,
over.
like this kind of goes with what you were saying earlier about that book that now I really want to read. Or once you learn something, it's like really hard to unlearn. This is how I learn a lot when like either I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this? Why am I fucking up? Or someone specifically tells me, this is why you're fucking up. And I'm like, oh, like when like Ethan, I take his photos a lot, and when he told me your framing is super off like a couple weeks ago,
oh yeah,
I was like, holy shit, that's what I'm doing wrong. And so yeah,
he's a better photographer now.
And now that now that you know it, when you see somebody else making that mistake, you might be like, why are they doing that? And then be like, oh, well, nobody has properly explained this to them or explained why it doesn't look good. They might be like, I'm not a good photographer, but
let's just hope Spencer remembers for the next time.
Yep.
Burn.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Burn. But what I was saying before is I think when we brought up Garrett's outfit at the Rose Bowl, which I saw, I don't know if he posted a photo or he sent a photo to me. I thought it was super dope. But there's other people too, like Cody Wellema has really been starting to do that, moving away from the classic menswear thing and integrating all of these kind of different, very similar philosophy to what we're talking about. His apprentice Akira does the same thing.
Oh yeah, like, Akira's got some dope style.
He has dope style. He'll be wearing the like 2120 handcrafted loafers, which are like a workwear take on a classic loafer, but they're also very utilitarian. There's no tassels. There's no
penny holder.
Yeah, there's none of that stuff. They're very simple, but they have some of that chunk. So he'll wear that with like white socks. So it's like Ivy meets like workwear there, and then he'll wear like double RL pinstriped high-waisted trousers with like a braided belt, and then like a pink 90s shirt, and it looks. And then and then he has like 50s eyewear that are really like. They're like octagon, but they don't look crazy. They work on his face. And then he wears obviously like a mink hat that he made for himself at Wellema. And I think Kosuke from Clutch Golf is another dude who like is just fearless. Yeah, it's that same thing of like he'll wear
and he
like a Tom Mix hat with like a linen suit that he made for himself with like double patchwork. Pleats and like patchwork and like a self belt on it with like. He's been wearing a lot of those 2120 loafers too.
Wow, that's really the new plug.
You know what? Even that cartoon that guy, if you saw it, he noted like
a lot of people wearing these hole cut loafers, and they're 2120s.
Yeah, he didn't know what they were, which I didn't expect him to, but he noticed that there's a ton of people at Inspiration, even outside of that crew that we just kind of talked about, that were wearing those loafers. Because it's kind of a classic take on menswear, but it's got the Japanese thing and the workwear thing integrated in, which I think is fresh, man.
Those go hand in hand, I think.
I showed my coworker those today, and they all said they were cool.
And we
That's
can
a
trust,
plug.
we can trust Men's Warehouse employees.
Oh man, that is
They're nice people.
That's a deep
They're
burn.
nice people.
There you go. But yeah, I think we hit the nail on the head with that one.
Really hit the nail on the head.
I think it was cool. I think I think the theme here is like, I think the Japanese people,
They're great.
they really
They're
are great.
great.
I think they really have a handle of style, and they're really in the post menswear
But
era.
But also, and a lot of the Japanese folks that we're talking about, they would also say like, we are incredibly indebted to the classic American looks. Like they are totally cool about giving so much credit to, like, this is where, like, obviously you see it in the denim culture where they're like now we're making some of the dopest denim in the world, but like if it wasn't for like Levi's and Lee and Wrangler, like we wouldn't be making this stuff. Like this is all based on our love for that.
Right.
So, I think that you can't jump into that Japanese philosophy without understanding the roots of it first. Because I think if you dive into that, you're gonna make some colossal mistakes. Where if you can dive into that philosophy by still kind of like keeping one foot in the classic tailoring and classic workwear and all this stuff, even not only American, obviously there's great French stuff and German stuff, and there's a ton of great British stuff. But yeah, I think you've got to at least understand that stuff before you can apply that philosophy, because it's kind of like, to apply that Japanese philosophy properly, you have to have that base of knowledge. And without that, you're just going to look like a lunatic. You're going to dress like a psychopath.
Unless that's what you're going for.
Yeah, which, if it is, then cool.
That reminds me of that. Have you guys heard of the 1-800-NO-CUFFS thing? Where the guy at the end... So I guess I'm the one who listens to the radio because everyone else has Spotify.
Okay.
But okay, so this is a weird plug to have at the end of the episode.
About that?
Yeah, Ethan's pissed.
I'm sorry, I don't have like $5 a month to pay for
my
Spotify.
God.
Anyway, there is a guy who does 1-800-NO-CUFFS, and he gets you off on DUIs, which I don't really
I thought it was
like.
gonna be like, we hem your pants.
No,
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, but he at the end of it he goes like, we're here to help you because no one looks good in handcuffs unless you're into that sort of thing. And
What?
Yeah, and it's such a bizarre commercial, but I kind of love it for the end of it. And
it's really funny, but it seems like most people wouldn't think that that's funny.
Why would a lawyer say that?
Yeah, I guess that's the point, is like, this is not the guy I want to hear these types of jokes from.
Yeah.
Like, if my buddy said that
but
at
hold
a
on.
bar, cool. But my
this
lawyer that's on the radio...
This lawyer's your buddy, though.
Oh, you know what? Good point.
There we go. See?
You know what?
He's the kind of guy I could have a drink with.
Yeah.
And then get you off on your DUI.
Yeah.
God. Yeah. So again, we're not condoning DUIs here, but I thought that the commercial was pretty funny.
I am condoning drinking and driving. Actually, I'm going to
God.
go...
Drunk as fuck, headed to the pump.
I'm going to go on record as saying...
Hey guys, let's
that's
go to a bar. Let's
great
take a couple
idea.
of drinks first and then drive there. There you go.
By the way, I am joking about that in case anybody doesn't
Hey,
know
kids.
that. Yeah,
I know a lot of kids.
I immediately
the
regretted
10
that. Was
people who
like-
listen to this are very impressionable.
Yeah. If there's some like teenager who's like, dude, this guy said it.
That holds up in court. So
Yeah. So I'd go to jail and he'd just be
Read
roaming
the Constitution,
streets.
cucks. All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight on this podcast.
Yeah,
whatever you're listening to it, afternoon, dawn.
Listen to it in the morning.
What other times are there?
We're not telling
It's
you when to
5:30
listen
somewhere.
to this.
It's 5:00 somewhere.
Right.
But thanks for having me.
It's
this is really
no
fun.
problem. We've been wanting to include you on here
Took
years.
Gerbs.
for years. Turkish Gerbs, that's right.
That's him.
All right, we're gonna go to our last segment, which is a little something called plugs. We don't have any plugs music.
Who's gonna improvise a song? Spencer?
Talking about
No. Plug. Baby, I hear the plugs calling. A salad and scrambled plugs. I sang the Frasier thing earlier.
quite stylish.
So,
Bringing it back.
Yeah.
Callbacks. What do you have? We have to plug for yourself.
Well, I don't know when this is coming out, but the Gooch Collective event, the second one, is happening on February 24th.
I think
and if
this will
that's
come
already
out like 3
happened,
days, maybe. Like I'm trying to make it come out.
well,
pretty soon.
then here's the plug. Go on to our social media. There'll be a ton of photos and video if this is after that, and we're going to be doing one in March. So definitely come out to that.
And that is at Gooch Collective.
Yes, the Instagram page is at Gooch Collective. These are events that are put on by my brother and I. He kind of runs the whole party aspect. I do the music. I get a bunch of really incredible, like I can't stress how incredible and happy I am to play with these musicians. There's no rehearsal. We just go and play, and
These guys are that good.
it's really fun. So it's a clothing event. So there's brands there. Like the first event was at I'm a Hat Company. We had 2120 there. We have some more brands that are going to be involved this time, like Clutch Kosuke from Clutch Golf is going to be there. And it's going to be at the Rogue Collective, which is in the Arts District, and they're going to have their clothing there, and we're going to have boba catered there.
Hell yeah.
These events are really fun. It's a community of artistic and creative people, and there's music and clothing and drinks, and it's going to be awesome. So if you missed this one, which it sounds like based on this slow editing going on over here by Ethan. I'm just kidding. No, that was an unnecessary burn.
Technically, we're recording this on your laptop, so whenever you give it to me,
I'm gonna delay and procrastinate.
What if we have you do the bumper music? Would you be down for that?
Absolutely.
Cool.
That'd be
I guess
fun.
people will be listening to it. So
check out the next episode.
Check yeah. Or hey guys, I hope you liked the bumper music from earlier that we did not plan yet, but was already written by Josh.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Time
awesome.
is so weird, right? So it's like it's already happened, but
time is
happened.
trippy, right, man?
Is that a quote from Stephen Hawking?
Yep. Time is so weird. Stephen
Time is
bro.
so weird.
You forgot the bro, comma.
Yeah,
or he doesn't. He's not for punctuation. He's like Kerouac.
Yeah, he just says time is so weird, bro, because it's like the robot voice can't do the
yeah, because he tried doing punctuation, but the robot voice kept saying the punctuation. He got pissed, and now he just run-ons.
You couldn't even tell he was pissed, though. He's a real professional.
Well, with that burn on one of our most
brilliant minds of our time,
intellectuals of our time, with a burn on him, we should. That's probably a good place.
And where can people follow you at?
So I am at Joshua Ray Gooch, JOSHUA RAYGOOCH on Instagram, and then all my other links to guitar stuff and clothing stuff will all be on there. So follow me on there, and as long as you're not really creepy and writing super weird stuff on my page, I won't block you.
Well, now I think he's gonna block me.
Damn it!
I know you, and to know that you're weird, and it's okay.
I'm glad. You can follow Spencer and I individually at Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer DSO.
And you can also follow us on Style and Direction. It's all spelled out. There is no abbreviations there. That's Style and Direction at Gmail.
We don't cut corners.
Style and Direction on Instagram. And we're probably going to be sharing a great portrait of Joshua that I took. Because Spencer doesn't contribute other stuff. We'll also
the
put up...
burns are just building.
I have to tell you every episode not to air out your dirty laundry on the podcast.
Well, this one's... aired now. Get it? Because podcast airing. Anyway, we'll probably also include really funny pictures.
That'll be cut.
Of the of the Michael Phelps stuff and the
Please go look at this photo of Michael Phelps, who once again is an American treasure.
John Travolta.
Yeah, the Michael Phelps and John Travolta will be on the Instagram, so that's one good reason for you to
be on the Instagram.
On Instagram Live.
But don't make it obvious that it's a joke. Just be like, sick suit on Michael Phelps.
God,
check out that rise.
Yeah, I wonder if do you guys I'm sure you get those random menswear Instagram bots that follow you and just they post a bunch of really generic photos all the time. I wonder if they posted that, what the reaction would be.
People would be like, dude, what a cut.
Yeah.
We should hashtag it properly so that way they can they'll pick it up.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, our last thing is that we ask our guests to come up with a sign off.
I'm so glad you started getting guests.
You know what?
Yeah.
I've listened to every show and I should have prepared and I have nothing.
That's the best part. That's the beauty of doing this because
It's like, I think I've made this comparison, but there was this interview show hosted by an SNL writer called 7 Minutes in Heaven, and at the end of it, he would always try to kiss the guest, and that's a really great way to see if the guests have done their research or not, how they react to the kiss.
I don't know. Style and direction. Go do clothes.
I love
you
it.
go.
Go
Yeah.
do clothes. All right.
Close.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
My wife.
That's the last part of it.